Hello and welcome back to After the Whistle Sports Podcast. I'm here with Derek. Maybe DY, he's just listening in for now, but we're super excited to do our official After the Whistle Sports NBA Draft mock draft. We're recording this the night before the NBA draft, so hopefully this should be up probably the day of the draft, so we'll see how close we are with our picks. Let's just jump right into it with pick number 1. And a lot of the talk this year has been about the fact that there isn't a real number one player that stands out. There's the three: Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, Paolo Banchero, and it feels like a lot of people have various opinions about who is the best out of those three or who the Magic should select with that pick. What are your thoughts, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, definitely have to agree. A lot of people have Jabari Smith not going number 1, but a ton of people think he isn't anything more than a role player or just a spot-up shooter. So, I mean, there's a lot to be desired going to the draft, but I think that, there's a lot of options, obviously.
So here's how I think we should do this. I think we should switch off each pick.
Okay.
We get to basically, pick the player at that spot, and then the other person can kind of, chirp in if they disagree, agree, give it a draft grade, I don't know. I guess since you are technically the guest on here, you get to pick for the Magic at the number 1 spot. Who are you selecting?
All right, to be clear, it's who we think they're going to select? Or?
This is a mock, so it's who we think they're going to select. It's if we think the Kings are going to draft the wrong guy, well, that's what we'll mock. But
all right. I think, first pick, Magic are going to take Jabari Smith. I mean, everyone has a mock there. He seems to be a good fit as just a shooter. They don't need someone that can sort of create their own because they already have a lot of bodies there. So I think they're going to take Jabari Smith.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know if I've talked on this pod about Jabari Smith. I think we did a little bit during our college basketball run of podcasts there. But he's a good player. Great three-point shooter at 6'10". Can really space the floor as a power forward at the next level. I question his ability to defend. I question his ability to beat guys off the dribble. I question his ability to be anything more than a solid role player, which honestly, for the Magic, they just need, a good player on their team. I don't know if they really need a star, but they need, talent on the team. And so, Jabari Smith seems like a pretty safe pick. So if they draft him, which is, most likely going to happen according to all the insiders and all the people who really know what they're talking about, I would probably give it a draft grade of a B, I don't know. A B is probably solid for that pick.
Yes, sir.
But the number 2 pick, OKC, I'm pretty confident about this in the top 10. All signs point to them drafting Chet Holmgren. He fits the fact that OKC is not really ready to win now. It's a low pressure situation. Chet Holmgren's an absolute unicorn of a prospect. He's 7 feet tall, can handle the ball, can basically do everything you want in a player, but at a rail-thin 7 foot. So he can shoot the ball, great defender. I mean, his highest upside, or his most elite NBA trait right now is his defensive ability and his paint protection. So, Yas, you want to chirp in?
I will chime in on that. I agree with
You're going to say he's too
saying.
skinny, right?
I am going to say he's too skinny, and I'm also going to say...
but that is fraudulent, though. When is an NBA player failed because he's too skinny?
I'm just going to say, how you say he has paint protection, but how is he possibly going to defend against a guy
because he can reach over the rim.
What's he going to do when Zion Williamson is anywhere near him?
That's a special case.
Or LeBron James, or these guys that are just... Or KD, how's he going to guard KD, who's just more athletic than him? And he can't...
I don't know,
he can't
Chet's
size
really,
him up.
Chet is athletic.
He can't put a body on any of these guys because he's going to
But
break.
why not?
He's literally going to break.
He's never had a detrimental injury.
Dude,
he's been playing high-level basketball for 3 or 4 years.
He's
195, by the way.
He's playing high-level basketball, but he hasn't played against, these are men now. We're not talking about, boys.
All I'm going to say is if the only knock you have on Chet is his weight, there hasn't been an NBA player who's failed just because of his weight.
But who's been
that's
so
never
skinny?
happened.
Has anyone been this skinny?
I mean, there's been players.
7 feet.
Sean Bradley was one of them. But I think he failed because he was just not that good.
I mean, I think a lot of the times people with injury or like weight concerns, they always just put on weight in the NBA. I mean, you have like trainers, you have the staff designed to like make you put on weight, like Giannis.
But for that reason, like I think he does have some concerns compared to these other guys, which is why I think OKC is the perfect spot for him.
I think he's the perfect spot because if his weight is the factor, OKC can afford. I mean, they have
like they can wait.
They can afford.
They can wait.
They can afford for him to be a bust. But if Chet turns out to be the best prospect in the draft, they look genius. And if he doesn't, it's no big deal. They've got 6 other picks.
I mean, listen, he's a crazy prospect. I feel comfortable with, at least in our mock, if we're going to try to predict what happens tomorrow night, I feel comfortable with the OKC Thunder. We'll draft him if I assume he's still there if the Magic don't take him.
So I'm curious, what do you think his offensive potential is? Because we didn't see a lot of him going like off the dribble like Gonzaga.
He's never going to be a number one option on offense. I don't think he's even going to be a number 2. I just think he's going to be if he's going to pan out, I think his most likely option, he's a really good, like, elite level defender. And I think he could space the floor, run in transition, and kind of, like, fit into, like, a fluid offense. Like, he isn't the offense, but he can definitely fit into whatever you want to run. Like, pick and roll.
Like a 3-and-D guy? But
yeah.
Like a 7-foot 3-and-D guy?
Yeah. And he can shoot. He can shoot. He can handle the ball. He can be, like, he's one of those guys where teams are going to love. If they can utilize him correctly, they're going to want him, like, kind of going up against mismatches the entire time because he can run a pick and roll from both ways, basically.
Interesting.
Let's say he pans out to be whatever. Like, do you think that his ceiling, like, where's his ceiling on offense?
Again, I think his ceiling is probably like
the NBA comparison.
His ceiling. Well, compare it. Well, like, you can't compare him to anyone because he's like, there isn't anyone like him, like, ever. Maybe like.
I think the closest is probably like Anthony Davis, like at the highest, like the highest. It's like
but I think Chet's like motor is like higher than Anthony Davis. Like Chet is like a hard work, like ever he's been. Coaches have said he's like the hardest working prospect. Like he loves basketball truly, which is why I have a lot of faith that he can at least become like a solid like good player in the NBA. Maybe not a superstar, but he's going to be a good player.
That's what I like. That's the one thing I do like about him is that he doesn't really have a ceiling. Like, he can be one of the like.
Well, listen, I would say his ceiling, like if we're talking like stat lines, his ceiling is probably like 22.5 points per game, 11, 12 rebounds, 2.8 blocks. Like that. That's a ceiling.
No, that's fair.
That's an all-star level player. That can you can win a championship with a guy
player
like that on your team, right? That's a ceiling.
If you're averaging a double-double in the NBA, that's like a whole.
He can do that though. Like that's his ceiling to as a prospect.
That's what I like.
Okay, Derek, pick number 3, Houston Rockets. Their team is pretty young. They just got rid of Christian Wood, traded him away. They still have Eric Gordon's garbage contract, which is absurd, and John Wall's. Honestly, these are absurd contracts. But first of all, just what are your opinions on the Christian Wood trade?
I thought it was a good trade for both sides. I think that the Rockets got off Christian Wood. He's not going to re-sign with them next year, so they got off him, and they got something for him. The Mavericks got a big man that can shoot to pair with Luka, which is good for them. I mean, overall, I thought it was a pretty good trade for both sides. And,
yep. So with that being said, I know my answer, but who do you think's the move here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be Paolo, the last of the top 3. He has a really brilliant offensive game, and I think pairing him with Jalen Green is going to be like a very potent duo for the future, definitely.
Yeah, he's my favorite prospect in the class. I just think he projects so well for the modern NBA. Like at 6'10". Also, he measured in on 6'10" without shoes. So at the combine,
like 7 feet.
I'll go through his strengths first and maybe some of his weaknesses. Great playmaker, like at his position. Like to have a 4 that can play like that is pretty special. He can shoot the ball. He worked on that a lot at Duke. I mean, pretty solid athleticism for his size. Again, he's a little bit like on the slower side, but he's got a lot of power, which is a little bit different than some of these other like longer 4 or 5s in this draft. He's just so good. And he's like he could impact winning on any team. I think he's like people use the word like NBA ready, but I feel like that's kind of like a knock on him at this point because some people like assume that means he's like reached his potential, which I don't think that's the case whatsoever. Like he's the best bet to be an all-star out of this draft.
However, as I've had concerns,
But you got concerns with everyone.
I think. Well, yeah, no.
Well, let's think about this.
Yeah,
draft.
no,
Everyone has to.
There are a lot of.
Let's listen. Yeah.
This is pretty well known, but like him losing so much weight during one NBA
Well, that's
game.
been proved. He just drinks like a special substance. He's been fine with that.
Like,
He's played at an elite level
Can
last
your
year.
body? Can your body like
Yes,
last
it's a pretty
long
normal
going
thing.
through that?
Yes, they
Going-
figured that out.
Losing 15 pounds
Yes,
a game is
you
figured
watched him
out,
play a full season last year.
which is impressive. But that's like going through NBA, like playing every other day.
Go through the
for
NBA, which has like the most
82
medical,
games.
like
Yeah.
sports training expertise in the world.
I mean, I agree with
Yes.
your point, but I think that there's a reason why he's like mocked consistently in the top 3, and NBA
If
scouts
he,
have definitely
listen, if
figured
he
it
had a
out.
real
that-
problem, like
He
these
would've.
guys who have actual problems they fall.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, he's incredible. Like to me, I think he has the highest ceiling of the draft. I think he has the highest floor and the highest ceiling. But out of that, what you disagree with that? You disagree with that?
I think I don't know. I think Chet's ceiling is higher.
I agree. I think Chet has the highest.
I don't know, man. I just think Paolo can do everything on the court.
So what do you think about Paolo on the defensive end?
That needs to be improved.
Okay.
And like that's my weakness with him. I was going to talk about is like he has the body and the build for a good defender. I don't think anyone argues that. It's just like some of his technique, a little bit like I wouldn't say it's motor. It's just he wasn't like a great defender at Duke. And like some of these younger guys who have a lot of pressure to kind of like be the offense, like for their own team. Like sometimes they'll focus on that on that side of the floor too much in college. But I think like in the NBA, like I don't know, Houston's not going to play much defense anyways because they already have Jalen Green out there. But I think his defense will improve because he has the size, he has the athleticism to be able to do it. He's never going to be a lockdown player, but he's going to be like, he's not going to get picked on in the pick and roll. I feel like I don't know.
What do you think his like comp is in the NBA?
Comp?
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to sound like this. Listen, this is like the comp. Okay, like in play style. I'm not talking about like he's going to be this player like anywhere close to that. But like his comp to me is LeBron. In terms, no. In terms of a bigger player, who can play make at his level. No. I'm not saying this is like a comp in terms of play style. Okay, not in terms of projection.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a bigger 4. Okay, he's like a solid build. He can score at like all 3 levels, and he can play make from like any spot on the court. That's what I see with him. Again, this is not a projection of his career at all. But his play style reminds me a little bit of LeBron. I mean, I can give another player, like a worse player.
No. I'm
If you
like
want
I
that.
just because LeBron's play style is like very like finish around the paint, very paint centric. He also has like the
He's
best
finished around the
playmaking
paint.
of like
Paolo-
our generation. Like,
Well, no, it's not. Again, it's not a projection. It's the type of player. It's like it's like the style of play.
Okay.
Like a bigger 4 who can score at all 3 levels, but is still like getting everyone involved. Like LeBron at this point of his career is like really past.
But
first.
LeBron was a better defender than him. I don't think.
Yeah, well-
I think his offense.
Yeah, maybe
semi-agree
offense
with.
is probably the better count.
But
for him.
defense,
and I would also
I
say
disagree.
like his like offense at this point in LeBron's career, as like a more of a playmaker than a guy who's gonna like take it to the hoop every time. Like, is that a fair assessment?
He plays like a.
He's gonna
30-year
find
old.
shooters. He's gonna score in the post for whatever, like 5 or 6 possessions. He'll get in the post per game.
Do you think
he'll
he's
run
as
out in
athletic?
transition.
He's not as athletic as LeBron.
No, that's why I said
no,
at this
no one
point.
is.
That's why I said at this point in his career,
Yeah.
like a slow LeBron, like a late, you know.
38-year-old LeBron.
But yeah, I'm just like just based on his size and his like
Yeah.
his basketball IQ and the way he's like play makes.
I agree.
It's hard to find a guy that size who can play make as well as Paolo does, right? Like I don't know. Do you have another comp for him?
I mean, I've seen people comp him to like his play style very similar to KD or like Jason Tatum in that.
See, I don't see KD at all.
Yeah,
I don't know, and I don't see. I see Tatum a little bit in the fact that like they're bigger build, but like they're gonna want to play the game differently.
I think it's just more of that like really tall player that can create their own shot and like create their own jumper on the perimeter that is like enticing.
Yeah, but if you watch Paolo, like he isn't creating to create his own shot most of the time. It's to create others, like to make shots open for others, which is why I think he has such a good role in the NBA. Okay, enough with that. We got through our top 3. Again, those are the most controversial picks of the day, probably. So, Derek, I believe it's your.
No, I think it's you.
Oh, it's my pick.
Yes.
Nice. So I get to go. Sacramento Kings. They need someone good. They need to hit on a draft pick at some point. And I think this is the year they do it because I believe at the 4 or 5 honestly, 4, 5, 6, and 7 like guys in this draft are all pretty solid players. I think I've heard a lot of talk that they're going to trade this pick, and I believe that the 4th pick, if it's the Kings or if it's another team they traded to, I think it's going to be Jaden Ivey. To me, he's like, it goes the top 3 guys we talked about, a tier break, Jaden Ivey, tier break, and then the rest of the 3 guys that are kind of come up. So, great athleticism, 6'4" as a point guard, great production at Purdue, pretty solid shot creator, shot the 3 ball like fairly well, I guess. Like that's another thing that you kind of have to project a little bit in the NBA, but can defend, super fast, like quick. To me, he's just a perfect piece for like a team drafting at this spot. Like he's still a guy who gives you immense upside, and I mean honestly, on my big board he was like the number 2 player. So in terms of like my draft big board. So I obviously think he has great potential, and the Kings should hold on to this pick because him with De'Aaron Fox would be like the fastest backcourt in the NBA.
I'm like, I don't know. I'm curious because the Kings have like so many guards and they have no like real big.
Okay,
men.
but like,
so is it just like best player available?
Yeah, the Kings at this point they don't get to say, oh, we have too many guards. Like, no, you have too many like mid guards. Like, listen, the Kings, guys, don't overthink it. Draft the best player available. Odds are, if you're a top 5 pick, you've been messing up the draft too many times. Okay, draft the best player available. That's always my philosophy for these drafts. Like, if you have a top 10, even top 5, like especially top 5 pick, draft the best guy. Like, don't let De'Aaron Fox like scare you away from drafting Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, I watched Jaden Ivey a lot in college, and unfortunately, and I think he is probably the best option for them. He's the best option available in the draft at the number 4 spot. As you said, Smith, I think he has a very high ceiling as well. I think he could easily be one of the best players out of this draft. And he could be the best player. He's a very fast, like mobile, agile point guard. I've heard his like player comparisons to like Victor Oladipo, kind of.
I actually like that a lot. And as like a bigger guard.
I think that's kind of what he is in his, at least Victor Oladipo before. I think he has a lot of upside and can be a very good pick. And that backcourt, as you said, it could be a very lethal, fast, in transition backcourt.
Derek, anything else to add on to that?
I mean, yeah, I think you said it all. I'm just a little bit concerned if the Kings draft him. Like, what's the defense in that backcourt going to look like? But, I mean, I guess you'll figure it out when you get there.
I think he can actually defend. Again, like he was a pretty solid defender last year at Purdue. From what I saw, like he's got the size to do it. I mean, you're not drafting him to be like an elite defender, but there's no reason why he can't be like an average to above average defender. With his like athleticism, with his skill set, like he could be a good defender.
Definitely.
Next, I believe this is your pick, Derek.
Right.
Detroit Pistons, and if you want to talk about the Jeremy Grant trade, you can also do that.
Yeah, I don't really know what the Pistons are doing. I mean, I guess they got something for Jeremy Grant.
They're competing next year, dude. I'm telling you, they're gonna sign a guy to a max contract.
The Pistons?
They're going to try to compete. Yes.
So it's gonna be like Cade, Marvin Bagley.
It's gonna be Cade, Ayton. Hold up, no. It's gonna be Cade, Ayton. I'm looking at this roster. Like I don't know if Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey and Cade are 2 players who can play on a competitive team.
Yeah, but like.
And then you get the number 5 pick. And then if you get a guy like DeAndre Ayton, all of a sudden you're looking at 4 guys who can play on a competitive team.
But do you want your rookie? I mean, I assume it's going to be Keegan Murray, if I had to guess.
Well, let's see what Derek goes.
I don't know what Derek's going to say.
I mean, they wouldn't get rid of Jeremy Grant if they weren't going to draft a 4 here, right?
You know, that's an interesting point, but I'm going to go with Benedict Mathurin.
Yes.
5.
Yes.
I really like Mathurin. I think he's just a better fit for the Pistons. I mean, you said they need a 4, but they recently got Marvin Bagley, which I think they actually really like him. He's still young and has potential, and I think that Mathurin would just like play really nice next to Cade. I think that, after.
Wow, I love the Mathurin pick. A+ pick, Derek. A+ pick, okay? And listen, at Arizona, that team was so good offensively last year, and he was one of the main reasons why. 6'6" wing, 210 pounds, averaged 17 points per game, around 3 assists, 5 rebounds. 3-level scorer. Again, like everyone says everyone's a 3-level scorer these days, but like an actual 3-level scorer. Great defender. Like, measurables off the charts. To me, he's a safe prospect who can also give you, like to me, he projects as a player who can be a championship-level piece in the future. He just gives you so much on both ends of the floor. This is probably the best defender that we've picked so far, which says a lot because we're on pick 5, so
Yeah.
he fits in really well with what the Pistons are trying to do. Like, they're trying to get a big team. I think if the Pistons also go out and sign DeAndre Ayton in a sign and trade with the Suns, which has been talked about for a little bit now, not sure if it's going to happen, but all of a sudden you got like a pretty good roster there. And in terms of like our projections for what actually happens tomorrow, like everything I've read has said that Benedict Mathurin's going to go in the top 5. I don't know if that could just be buzz coming out from some front office trying to leak stuff, but he seems like a pretty safe pick for that spot, so I really like that. Yas, anything on that? You made like a pretty like audible like reaction to that.
I mean, no, I see what you're saying. I could also see Keegan Murray going there, but
I'll talk about Keegan Murray in a sec here.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I see what you're saying.
Number 6 pick, the Pacers. This is where the draft gets interesting because I could see him taking Keegan Murray. I could see him taking Shaedon Sharp. I could see him taking. I could see him taking Dyson Daniels maybe. Like, they could take best player available, whoever they like better. To me, those signs point to Keegan Murray, 6'8", sophomore out of Iowa. Fantastic player last year in the Big Ten. Averaged 23 points per game. Really good scorer, 6'11" wingspan. Just like he fits the modern NBA in terms of what they want in a 4. He should be a really good defender. I'm not going to lie, in the games I've watched of him, he was like solid. He wasn't like amazing. That's not the trait that jumped out to me. The trait that jumped out to me was his ability to run in transition. He was one of the better transition scorers last year in college basketball. Should project to be at least like a solid role player on that team. Again, like his upside's a little bit more limited than some of these other guys, and like especially a guy like Shaedon Sharp who might have like a higher upside, but he's got so many red flags. I just think Keegan Murray should be the pick here. I think that's what the Pacers are going to do. Like, they've been a pretty safe draft team, you know.
Here's the thing, which is why I kind of grimaced at the 5. Is Keegan Murray? Think about how much he improved from his freshman to sophomore year. Heck, being recruited, he was a 3-star, and all of a sudden he's a arguable top 5 player in this draft. We don't really know what his like true cap is. Like, he's only improved.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, what's he gonna improve? Like, we know he has a 3-point shot. Like, we know he's got like the measurables, length, and athleticism. We know, like, I just don't know what his game is. Honestly, he just does everything well. I don't think he has like an elite trait. I don't know.
I agree.
And if you're drafting a guy this high, you want a guy who has like 1 or 2 like elite traits. Like, what does he do better than the other guys that have been drafted before?
Which he doesn't. He does, as you said. I agree. He does everything well. Nothing outstanding or great. But I mean, if there was a college most improved, he's up. Up there on that list.
He really developed, and like his brother's going to come out of the draft, I think, next year. Chris Murray, who's like basically just a clone of him.
Yeah.
He tested the draft waters this year and decided to go back to Iowa, but again, like, these players they're good players. Like, these are guys who can make a difference on a team. I just don't think they'll have an impact of a guy like Dyson Daniels, or we're talking a little bit.
I think there's a lot of untapped potential in him. I think there's so much that he can improve and that he has already improved on. Like, what's stopping him from being better than he was last year?
Because he just doesn't have those. He just don't have those. Like, some of the traits that you're trying to get better at, like, you just don't like work on. I guess you can be a better shooter, but you already shot like a pretty good level last year.
Yeah, I mean,
like, his athleticism's fine. It's not great. Like, he's 6'8". Like, he's a smart basketball player, but he's just not. He doesn't pop off a roster.
All right.
Derek, or do you have the next? Yeah, you have the next pick.
Yeah.
Trailblazers. This pick
Trailblazers.
might be traded. So.
I think. Okay, if they do decide to keep the pick, I'm gonna say they're gonna take Shaedon Sharp. He is a good guy to draft just because of the outstanding potential that he has and the incredible vertical and a lot of the just unknowns. If the Blazers decide to go in that full rebuild direction, they have a great piece to build around with just like amazing athleticism, the like 49-inch vertical, you know.
No, that by the way, that's proven false.
Oh, yeah.
I think he did a workout with the Pacers, and they asked, some reporter asked him if, like, what his vertical was, and they were like, yeah, no chance. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually have Sharp that high on my like big board because I don't think he's like a very, I don't know. I don't think he's like he's like been failing all of his interviews. He's like he hasn't played in a year. He's like the biggest unknown in the draft.
Well, first of all, is it not a red flag that the dude like didn't play? Like he was at Kentucky, and I don't know if it was like some people in his camp. Nowadays all these people got like their guys, their family, whatever, who's like handling their playing situation. But like someone told him like don't play, and like he didn't play last year. He could have played.
Like
he was at Kentucky. He
midway
could
through
play.
the season.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
well,
the Shaedon Sharp camp and Coach Cal for the Kentucky, I guess they agreed that he was going to sit out. What does that mean?
I mean, like, it makes sense that he's pulling the safe route because if you play and like let's just say you play poorly, you drop like out of the lottery or like you drop out of the first round.
Hamidou Diallo.
Yeah, or
who went in? He's same situation in Kentucky. He was there, reclassified, was there, and he just decided he wasn't going to play. Or no, he decided he was playing, and he's bad.
Yeah.
Then he fell to the second round. So.
Or like Patrick Baldwin, like these people are like 5-star prospects. Like Shaedon Sharp is number 1 in his class. I mean, if he doesn't play, he's guaranteed like a top 10 pick, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense for him not to play.
Yeah.
But
I think he might know that he's not. Or he might not know.
He also didn't do combine.
He didn't do anything. He's done no measure. We don't know like who he is. Like we only know what he was a year ago.
Listen, I'm pretty sure he's listed at 6'6". Like he could be 6'2" for all we know.
I mean, he could also be 6'8" for all we know.
Yeah.
Like, he could grow.
Trust me, if he was 6'8", they would measure him. Okay. Listen, you don't have a guy not. Same with the 40 times, where the guys don't do the 40 times. Like you don't have a guy like not do a 40 time or not do a combine if they aren't gonna like.
oh yeah, like
be like
if you're faster
Unless
than like
something's wrong. Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure Patrick Baldwin did compete in the combine. He had like the lowest at like measurables ever. Like I think Luka Garza had a higher vertical jump.
Yeah, that's a guy that should have skipped the combine.
Like, dude, what is his agent doing? We're kind of getting off topic here, but like, dude, you have to have known that this guy can't jump.
Yeah.
That's bad job by the agent. Like that moves him down like a whole like 25 picks.
No, that was a terrible job.
Anyways, let's move on. 'Cause we're taking so long to get to the top 15 picks.
Yeah.
But Shaedon Sharp, fine pick, tremendous upside, super young, probably the youngest player in the draft. I don't know if he's a 3-level scorer. Like I heard he can shoot threes. I don't think that's like his game per se. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you get with him. He's such a mystery, but I think that's a solid landing spot for him because they could afford to take him more like a project like that.
Yeah.
8th pick, Pelicans. This is a team that has good pieces. Like they could definitely be a top 4 or 5 seed next year if everything goes accordingly. With Zion coming back. And I'm looking at the draft board right now, and like I know I had another guy like picked out here, but I see Dyson Daniels still on there, and I'm just going through my mind of like a Dyson Daniels. I feel like fits. He hasn't been talked about like as a guy mocked at this spot, but I think he fits the roster actually pretty well. Like surround him with Zion and Brandon Ingram. Like I think he's a good piece. I'm deciding between him and AJ Griffin. Or honestly, Jeremy Sohan like also is there, but I don't think they're gonna draft him there. AJ Griffin was the guy that's like most likely mocked to him in like the ESPN mocks. You know what? Now I'm gonna make it interesting. I'm gonna go Dyson Daniels,
Okay.
the G League Ignite point guard, from Australia, 6'6", bigger guard. Like at this point, like if you're not a point guard who's over 6'4", like, just don't even draw for the draft. But definitely a really good passer. I heard he can defend. Again, I haven't watched too much of his tape. Seems like a smart player. I don't think he's the best three-pointer. He shot 16 for 62 from three. So, below average three-point shooter. Again, you could teach three-point shooting. Pretty solid wingspan. Again, not a scorer. Like, you're not drafting him to be a scorer or, like, project him as a scorer. He's going to be a playmaker and a good defender. So, I feel like that fits the Pelicans. He's the best player available in my opinion. So, I want the Pelicans to have him. I feel like that'd be really fun.
Yeah, no, sounds pretty good. I mean, he's also a good player to overtake McCollum, who's getting pretty old, if they decide to go that route. So
Yep.
He's definitely like really possibly crazy potential. I heard he's like 6'8", and he's.
I heard he's not 6'8".
No,
I heard he's 6'6", 6'7" maybe.
But still a big guard that can.
Well, he's
do
still
a lot.
there, dude. Dyson Daniels was still on the board at 8. Is that like?
It's pretty crazy.
I feel like that'd be a good pick. Okay, let's keep moving. Derek, the 9th pick, San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
I know who I would draft, no doubt, if he's still on the board.
I am taking Jalen Duran.
Beautiful.
I mean, just like probably the best player available. He's a really good center. He gives the Spurs flexibility to get rid of Pirtle if they need to in the offseason. And he's like freakishly good on defense and has potential to become like a legitimate offensive player, I think. Like maybe Robert Williams, but sort of like that type player. So I think he has a lot of defensive potential. And
Yeah,
could be a great addition.
great shot blocker. Was the former number 1 recruit. Has no real outside game. Kind of scary, okay? No outside game. I think he could pass from the high post. Of course, he can work in the low post. Good defender, great athleticism, great wingspan. Really like the pick, and I think he's perfect for the Spurs. Like, he's the type of guy who the Spurs can really, like, turn into a high-level defender and, like, a top-tier, like, perimeter or post player.
Definitely.
Okay, let's continue on with the 10th pick, Washington Wizards. Interesting pick again. I think they could go for a few. I think it's got to be a wing here. Looking at the roster, and there's a few good wings. Johnny Davis has been mocked them a lot. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of his. I don't know how good he really is going to be in the NBA. They could take a flyer on Ousmane Dieng, who I've seen like as high as 7 or like as low as 23 or something. So like he's an option. AJ Griffin is there. I think they are going to go with AJ Griffin here. On the way, Jeremy Sohan's also there. No, I like AJ Griffin out of Duke. 6'6".
Nice.
I think he's 19 years old. Great three-point shooter. Good defender. Has injury problems, which is why he's like dropped this far. But yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I like that a lot. Yeah, good pick.
All right, next pick, Derek.
All right.
11th, Knicks.
The Knicks. I'm gonna go with. So I mean, obviously, there's still a lot of great talent on the board. Ousmane Dieng, Sochan, everyone. But I think.
If the Knicks draft Ousmane Dieng at pick 11, I think Twitter might fall apart.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit crazy. I think they're gonna take Johnny Davis.
Mm-hmm.
He's just such a New York Knicks player. The Taco Bell commercial.
This is the Obi Toppin pick. This is literally the Obi Toppin pick.
Like this is such a Knicks pick to make, and
That's such a bad pick too. The Knicks always mess up these guys.
yeah, I don't know if he's gonna pan out, but he seems to be like a pretty electric offensive player that can do a lot. And
He's not like his game isn't electric. His game is like he has such high usage at Wisconsin that he put up really solid numbers on solid efficiencies. I just don't think like he's going to translate to like a high usage offensive player in the NBA.
Oh yeah, I think it'd
I
have to
don't
be like a pretty like crazy transformation, like something like like a Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, that would probably be a solid comp for him.
Yeah,
I think
something
he's
like
a little bit like doesn't have that finishing ability.
Yeah,
I think he's probably a better 3-point shooter coming out of college than him though. But anyways, the next pick, a Knicks player here. Again, like I think Obi Toppin's actually a good player. I think the Knicks just ruined him. He was good, dude. Anyways, whoever the Knicks draft is probably going to end up being terrible. Let's go again with the OKC Thunder with their second pick so far. I mean, I kind of see. Ooh, who do I like here? We got a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Jalen Williams, I could see them taking a flyer on. Out of Santa Clara. I could see him going for like Jaden Hardy. This would be a good spot for him. G League Ignite, 6'4", point guard or shooting guard. They can go a different couple directions here. They can go Malachi Branham. They can go Ousmane Dieng. I want to go Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara.
Wow. Okay.
I feel like he fits what they're trying to do. Hey, well, actually, do I want Jalen Williams? Oh no, I'm gonna go back on this pick because I saw a guy I liked a little bit better. I'm gonna go Jeremy Sohan. I think, again, super raw prospect. Really doesn't have an offensive game at this point, like at all, which is scary. But he's got a great, he's a good defender. I've heard people talk about him as a potential guy who can guard 1 through 5. Again, everyone can guard 1 through 5. Not many people can stop a 5 and also stop a 1. But whatever, he a switchable guy who has good length, solid athleticism, doesn't have a 3-point shot, but he can develop it. He showed signs. Good energy, really high energy, high motor. Is just super unrefined as a prospect, and OKC's been loading up on these guys, so that's who I think they're going to pick here.
But why don't you think they're going to take Dieng?
I don't.
If you're looking for unrefined prospects that have lots of potential.
I think they're going to like Sohan's defensive abilities because he's proven it at some point. Dieng is a complete mystery. I don't know if they're going to draft Chet and Dieng. Also, that's a little bit redundant, right?
Yeah.
To draft Chet and Dieng, how many small ball, how many small ball 5s they want, or not even a small ball 5 because Chet's huge, but Dieng's a 5 at the next level. Yeah. Let's see who the next pick is. Okay, Charlotte Hornets, pick number 13. This sounds this guy's been mocked to them every single time. So.
Yeah, I don't know if we're thinking about the same person. I'm gonna go, Ochai Agbaji.
Ooh.
I don't know if
that's not the guy
you're thinking of, but
I've seen everything say Mark Williams will be the pick here.
Okay, right. I think people like Mark Williams, but I think that the Hornets are looking to trade for Miles Turner, so I don't know if they're going to try to draft a center like that.
I like that actually. That's the first time I've seen Ochai Agbaji been mocked to the Hornets. And honestly, that's not terrible.
I think they could have taken him at 15 because they had that pick too. But I think at 13 they got a really good 3-and-D type player who is ready, NBA ready and able to fit that mold.
Great 3-point shooter, fits the roster pretty well. Actually, I like that pick a lot. We have the Cavs at pick 14th, and honestly, I think they're going to trade this pick. I've heard some rumors that they might. If not, I could see them drafting Ty Washington out of Kentucky. Interesting fit. But I think they want to look for a guy who can score and play make for others. Mm-hmm. Back before the college basketball season started, he was mocked as a top 10, maybe even top 5 pick, and he kind of fell during the season. Struggled a little bit offensively as a freshman, but has solid size, can shoot the ball, 3-level scorer, can defend at some point. So I think this would be a solid fit for him here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, now we got the Hornets again. Now the Hornets can draft the other guy too.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll just have them take Mark Williams. I'm surprised Dieng is falling this far, but Mark Williams.
Okay, but I think Dieng's a little bit by the way, we're using the ESPN big board for this draft ranking, so I think he's a little bit high, but sure.
So we have Mark Williams at 14 or 15. He's he fits the Hornets well. They need a big man that can be long-term with LaMelo. He shocked everyone at the Combine, so...
I think he's a 7'7" standing reach.
Yeah, he's pretty crazy. Mark Williams, from my perspective, they're not going to take Williams at 13 because there's no way the Cavs take him at 14 because there's so many big men. So, unless they trade the pick.
Or, what if someone trades up for the Cavs pick? That's, I feel what Charlotte would be afraid of.
Yeah. So, taking him at 15 is still good for the Hornets.
Nice. 16th pick, the Atlanta Hawks. This is another interesting team because they're just a few years removed from an Eastern Conference semifinals appearance. They've got a solid squad. I'm trying to feel of what they also need a center. So
do they?
Yeah, because they have
Capella.
I mean Capella, but
And
is he really the option there, like, long
Okongwu.
term?
I feel like I don't know. They have a pretty good center rotation.
I'm not sure like who they would need then. In that case, I think they pick up. Now this is probably gonna be Jalen Williams. Like he's a pretty like pro ready prospect for like a guard. He's older at 21, so he fits their like window, their championship window a little bit. Mm-hmm. Hawks championship window. Anyway, he's got good size at 6'6". Put up 18 points per game, 4 assists, 4 rebounds last year. Amazing out of the pick and roll. I like him as like a secondary ball handler with Trey. And is also a guy who Trae Young's not a good defender, and so for backcourts that have like two good guards or ball handlers, I like the ability for like the Hawks to put Williams on one of those guys and stick Trae on the worst one. So I think this would be a solid pick, and I actually think Trae Young would be pretty happy for this because he can also space the floor as like a 44% 3-point shooter.
I like that.
Now we got Houston Rockets again, 17th pick. They picked Paolo Banchero according to our mock. Number 3 overall. Who do they pick here, Derek?
Okay, I think they're gonna take Ousmane Dieng. I mean, they have to at this point. If he's fallen this far, projected to go like top 10 in some drafts, he has a crazy potential and something the Rockets are looking to hit on, especially with their young core.
Nice. I'm completely fine with that. Again, Ousmane Dieng, we could like we've talked like for some of these players for like 5 minutes straight. I don't know anything about this guy. I just know he's like a 6'10". Like I think he can shoot a little bit. I think he can defend a little bit. Not sure though. Pick 18th. We got the Chicago Bulls, team ready to win now. I feel like they have a couple of needs here. One thing they need for sure is a better defender at the 4 or 5 position. Like Vucevic is solid, but like his defense was really bad last year. So I could see him going either like any of like Malachi Branham, Tari Eason, or EJ Liddell. And for this mock, I kind of like EJ Liddell out of Ohio State. To me, he's on the shorter end at 6'7" as a 4, but he's got a solid offensive game, can shoot the 3 ball, and is a really solid like big body defender who can also block shots. So I think the Bulls really like get better as a team with Liddell.
I like that pick. I think he's a good defender. I mean, like I'm curious why you didn't take Tari Eason.
Well, listen, like Tari Eason I liked earlier, but after his pre-draft, all that goes into that, the interviews, the combine, the workouts. Apparently, he's been one of the guys who's fallen a lot due to those, and that's never a good sign when you're putting in extra work and people and like teams are not liking you as much. So there's obviously something that teams see, which is why like they're shying off him a little bit. I thought he looked really good in college, but I can see some of the concerns, like the fact that he can only drive with his right hand. And the fact that like he's not as high motor of a player. Like he's got great length for the position, but I don't know if he's a game-changing defender that he needs to be with how raw his offensive game is.
Interesting. Okay.
Let's move on to the Timberwolves with the 19th pick. They've had some pretty terrible luck drafting, except for like the Anthony Edwards draft recently. So
yeah,
I'm curious to see what you think they'll do here.
I think the Timberwolves are interested in picking up a more defensive-minded player. I mean, they seem to have like a lot of offensive firepower. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with Tari Eason. I mean, I think he has the defensive capability.
This is such a Timberwolves pick too. like a complete head case, like questions of motor. Like they draft this guy every year.
Yeah,
they do, right? Like Cat, a team with. Oh my god, I'm sorry. It's just like the jokes like write themselves, you know.
And
I like the pick though. He's got good measurables.
If he projects to be as good as he can be, the Timberwolves have like a real steal in the draft, right? But he probably like maybe won't get there, you know. So.
Yeah, I saw a comp that said like someone comped him to Kawhi earlier, and I could see it a little bit the measurables, but like Kawhi is so refined coming out like compared to this guy. Like he is a pretty raw prospect, and he couldn't even start on a bad LSU team last year. So definitely questioned a little bit. I could see honestly a Patrick Williams type comp, like just a huge player who. But I think Patrick Williams had a much better like offensive game coming out. So interesting pick there. The Timberwolves love drafting guys with like a few red flags. I mean, they draft these guys every year, so not that much of a surprise. So let's move on to the 20th pick, the Spurs. So if we say they're going to draft Duren with the 9th pick, I see him going with like more of a project at this point, and I'm going to have him taking Jaden Hardy. Hardy's one of the more interesting players in this draft. Great, like came out of high school as a really solid like scorer. Some people thought he was the best scorer out of that class. Played in the G League Ignite, played poorly, and I mean that's again like that really like messed up his draft stock. I think that he's worth taking a risk on, especially for the Spurs, who have like a great developmental program for these players. And I think he could be if we look next year at like who had a really surprising like rookie season, I think he could be the ones who had who much outplayed their draft ranking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see that.
Let's move on to 21st pick, Denver Nuggets. Do they draft Nikola Jovic to go with Nikola Jokic?
I don't think they do. I'm gonna go with Malachi Branham here. I mean, I think they're projecting him to go, maybe in the lottery. He seems to be like a really good offensive weapon. I think the Nuggets are looking for a little bit more of that, especially because they need more I don't think he's like a playmaker on his own, but I think
no, but he's a good secondary scorer.
Yeah, exactly.
Slasher.
And
yeah,
he has a pretty good 3-point shot, which is good next to Jokic, obviously. So I think that the Nuggets make this.
No, actually, I really like that pick, and honestly, I like that fit with the Nuggets for him more than some of these other mocked teams he's going to. I just think that his play style matches up a lot with what Jamal Murray and Jokic do on that team. So great pick. That would be probably an A+ pick if that happens tomorrow. So. 22nd pick, Memphis Grizzlies again. How many picks do they have here? Okay. Anyways, I think the Grizzlies go. There's not much they need. I'm looking at who's going to be a free agent. I mean, they have Tyus Jones, who's an unrestricted free agent, and Kyle Anderson. I don't think they're going to keep any of those guys. Plus Dylan Brooks on a 1-year contract. I could see him going for either a guard to pair with Ja or another wing. And I'm going to go with one of the more underappreciated scorers in this draft. I think Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame. 6'5" shooting guard. I really like his game. He was fantastic last year as the first option for Notre Dame. And I think his role with Memphis is going to be to start as a backup point guard who can provide some offense and playmaking when Ja's on the bench. And then when Ja's on the floor, I think he's actually a pretty solid perimeter defender. And I think he could spread the floor out a little bit as a shooter. So, this to me seems like a good pick for Memphis.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I agree.
Let's move on. Philadelphia 76ers with the 23rd pick.
So I've heard a lot of rumors that Philadelphia is going to trade this pick.
Yep.
Pair it with Danny Green to get someone that can help them right away. But if not, I am going to have them taking Wendell Moore Jr.
I like it. I really like it a lot.
I think he is more or less a 3-and-D type player that can step into a championship roster and make an impact right away. And so I like what he can do for the 76ers.
No, I think that's a fantastic pick. I was actually I was scrolling through looking for him on the draft board because that was probably going to be my next pick. So kind of stole him away from the Bucks here. The Bucks, they can go a few different directions. Honestly, I like Dalen Terry to this spot. One of the more he's got one of the more wildest prospect profiles because he's a huge point guard, 6'7" point guard. Didn't put up crazy numbers at Arizona last year. Again, he was on a team that had a bunch of great scorers like Benedict Mathurin and Christian Koloko, but. Outstanding wingspan at 7 foot at the point guard position, just a freak athlete. His a few of his weaknesses, his ability to shoot off off a kick out, on the catch. Can't really create his own shot. Not going to be a scorer right away, but is an amazing defender. which I think like a team like the Bucks is just going to want to have because they always want to have a bunch of like switchable defenders they can throw in. And especially with, I think they re-signed Pat Connaughton. But you look at like some of the guys that run out, like Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, like George Hill, Jordan Nwora, and I think they could really use like a solid lockdown defender in that second unit. So I like that pick there.
It's a good pick. I like it.
Let's move on. I believe this pick is 25 to the Spurs again. So the Spurs can listen.
Yeah.
So far their draft is pretty good with Durant and Jaden Hardy. I think that's a solid Spurs type draft.
It looks good. Okay, I like this spot for the Spurs a lot. I think they're going to go with Nikola Jovic. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a very Spurs pick, a European-type player that has a lot of potential to become a facilitator as well as a scorer.
One of the best scorers in this draft right now. So
I think he's a legitimate player. I mean, I watched some of his tape. Definitely has the dog in him.
Nice.
I like that pick.
Question is, can he guard 1 through 5?
He definitely needs to put on some more weight, but that seems to not be a problem.
Good frame though, at 6'11".
Yeah, he's like a 6'11" like shooting guard that can legitimately handle the ball. I think he has like a lot of potential.
I like him a lot, and I think he's being overlooked as a playmaker too. Because in this tape that I saw, I think we probably saw the same tape, but he was like able to pass out of the pick and roll and like was a good secondary option. So
yeah,
Spurs kind of cleaned up in the first round of this draft. I kind of like what they did. So. Especially with that front office and like that organization, like these guys are going to be pretty solid. But 26th pick, Houston Rockets. So far, we have them drafting Paolo and Ousmane Dieng with their first 2 picks in the first round. I think they're going to go upside here. I'm trying to look for the guy. Where is he at? God, they can go so many different directions here. I'm honestly not sure what they're going to do. I like Kennedy Chandler as a prospect. I don't know if he really fits the Rockets, per se. Well, the Rockets have a ton of guards, and young guards. I kind of like him about Walker Kessler here. Going for the upside as like for a good shot blocker. Not going to give you much on offense, but can space the floor with the 3-ball. Had a pretty solid season last year at Auburn after like a pretty uninspiring season his first year at UNC. Former 5-star prospect, 7-foot, huge player. I see his comp as like a Rudy Gobert light, and I kind of like that to fit this team. And again, he's more of like a project player, which I think is what Houston's going to try to do.
Okay, I like that pick.
Okay, 27th pick, the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I mean Miami's in a very interesting spot because it seems like they can maybe compete for a championship, but we're not sure if their roster can hold up.
Well, no, I heard they might trade for Kyrie though.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I heard.
What
listen,
did they trade?
I was scouring Twitter today before this pod. And I was looking at the Kyrie rumors, and I saw Lakers, I saw Heat. Those two I saw the most, but I don't know if that's just Twitter going crazy. But
okay, I mean, yeah, I mean I don't really know what the Heat really need. They might need like another point guard.
I think they might go guard here.
They're gonna go guard. Okay.
Yeah.
I like Kennedy Chandler at that position. I think. I don't know. It's a little bit risky, but I think
there's a guy on the board I like a little bit better.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I just like Kennedy Chandler's. He's like young. He has a lot of like playmaking skills that the Heat I think desperately needed. Other than in the playoff series in the Celtics, we saw Jimmy Butler making like every decision. They didn't have a true facilitator. Kyle Lowry was sort of that, but he's also getting old and kinda is not great. So like we see them like maybe need to get another point guard to like solidify that rotation. I like Kennedy Chandler at that position.
I don't know. Like I'm gonna talk about this guy because I don't think he's gonna be drafted with like the next like the last few teams in the first round. But Andrew Nembhard to me, I think he's like a better point guard.
Interesting.
Is like a taller at 6'4" compared to like 6 foot, which I think is still generous for Kennedy Chandler. And I think Andrew Nembhard like really fits the Heat culture that they like to talk about.
Yeah.
But anyways, like I'm fine with either of those guys. I just think Nembhard's the better option. Golden State Warriors, NBA champions with the 28th pick. They're gonna want a win now wing, and I'm between two guys, Jake LaRavia and Christian Braun. LaRavia's out of Wake Forest. Just like a really like another weird prospect. He's 6'8", but I think he played like the 4 or the 5 in college. Really good shooter though. Christian Braun, of course, was on the NCAA championship winning Kansas. like great scorer, can defend, good frame. I think I like Christian Braun at this spot. And
It's a good pick.
again, the Warriors continue, hopefully, with the trend of drafting late guards who end up breaking out. So,
Yeah, I like that pick.
29th, we got the Memphis Grizzlies again.
All right, I'm gonna go with Memphis taking LaRavia, I think.
Yep.
I like him. He's like a do it all type player. He can do a lot of things extremely well, and I think that he has the ability to fit into this team and like help them contend right away, which is always what Memphis is trying to do. You see, they have drafted a lot of like older players out of the draft, or players that have been overlooked generally. So like Brandon Clark, for example, and they've developed them into like a nice young core. And so I think that like it's a good pick for the Grizzlies.
I think he takes over that Kyle Anderson spot if Kyle Anderson's like
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
leaving. So I do like the pick a lot. With the 30th pick, the Denver Nuggets are going to get, again, like they can go a couple different directions here. I'm not sure. Who's that last guy in this round? I'm going to keep scrolling because I think this one's going to be a...
Patrick Baldwin.
honestly, I was going to say Patrick Baldwin.
Yeah.
But I think this is... No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Caleb Houston. No. Not because I think he should go here, or I think he's going to go here. I've heard a lot of rumors that say that he has a draft promise from a team somewhere that drafted between 25 and 35. And so I'm just going to bite the bullet and take the median of that, okay? And I'm going to draft Caleb Houston. He fits what they want to do as like a pure scorer. He was like a former 5-star top 10 recruit. Didn't do as well at Michigan, but showed a lot of signs of like a guy who can impact winning. Not a good defender. Can't handle the ball very well, but is also 6'8". So take that as you will. He's going to be drafted as just a shooter, and I think like with like an NBA team working on that, I think that could be like a solid role for him.
Definitely.
So I think the Nuggets will be happy if they can get him. That's it. That is our first round mock draft. I want to take a picture of this honestly to see how correct we are on draft night. We're probably gonna get like what?
I mean, we didn't account for
45%.
trades. Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad that we did this. Again, to recap the top three, we have Jabari Smith going to the Magic at 1, Chet Holmgren going 2, and Paolo Banchero going 3. That's been the general consensus, but I would not be surprised to see Paolo going 1 or Jabari going 3 or whatever happens. Jaden Ivey going 3. I don't know, something crazy. But thanks for listening. I hope everyone enjoys the draft night. It should be a lot of fun. Hopefully we see some trades, some crazy picks, and hopefully the Kings don't draft another bum. So,
Yeah, definitely.
thanks for listening again, and see y'all later.